Bliss Band just dropped. Are we calling for an encore or booing him off the stage? Find out in this Whispers from the Maze set review, Lyra edition. Let's go. Editor Bill here. Just a heads up before we get started. What you're about to watch was recorded during the same session as the last two reviews, the Axiom and Bravos reviews. So at this point, we had already been filming for several hours. If you haven't watched either of those other videos, I do have a friend joining me for these, so we can discuss them. We're also rating them on a scale of 1 to 10. He's focusing more on the limited formats like draft and the pre-release sealed. I'm focusing more on the constructed or standard formats. Once we're done and we've reviewed all the factions, I'm going to come back and do a follow-up video, and we're going to talk about our highest and lowest rated cards. Lastly, we're also assuming you know the new mechanics going into the set, so if you're not familiar with them, I do have a video where I covered them in detail. Go check that out if you want to learn about them before you go into this. That's about it. Let's get going. We've got the Bliss Bassist, which is 1 from hand, 2 from reserve, 002. No rules text. It does have a passive support ability of when you play another character with a base statistic of 0, I gain a boost up to a max of 2. That is the same thing for all of the Lyra passive support abilities, so you'll see more of that. This card has the synergy with itself, so in the Lyra category of cards, it does have the base statistic of 0 in 2 stats. I think this card is not good.
Yeah, seems pretty bad.
I tried playing it in my pre-release kits, was disappointed with it every time. Not sure if it was...
not enough stats. Like, it just needs something.
Yeah. Granted, your 1 mana 1/1/1s is only 3 stats. So, but the difference between 2 and 3 is very large. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think this card is good. This is probably not going to see any play if I were to guess in Constructed. I'm going to give this a 2 just because there's some synergy with the base statistic of 0 and there's some fun stuff with playing the whole band and stuff.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a constructed Bliss theme deck, and you're going to play all of the band members, and you're going to have a great time. You're going to lose all the time. I don't think that this is good enough and limited even for a 1-drop. If it was a 0/1/2 or something, like, it would be much better. Yeah, I think 2 is a reasonable assessment.
Yeah, I want to love this card. The art's sick. He sucks. On to the rare. 2 from hand, 3 from reserve. This has a really interesting rules text here. It says, if I'm boosted, the stats of other characters you control are equal to their highest statistic. That's pretty good. That's already seen play in Constructed with winter outfits, if you're familiar with that card. It is the same effect, but on a gear. I think the gear is only 1 mana. But this is strong. Notably, it does not count itself. It would be very good if it counted itself. But since it doesn't count itself, still don't think it's that good. The stats are real bad for 2.
I don't think you mentioned that the water stat is 1 higher. It's a 0/0/3.
It is 1 higher, but even still, for 2 mana, you're usually getting a 2/2/2. That's 6 worth of statistics. This is 3. This is not good. Honestly, this... Because of the rules text, I think it gives it 1 extra point. But it is more expensive. I don't know. I feel inclined to give it a 3, but how do you feel?
Yeah, I feel similarly. It's a real shame that the rules text doesn't include itself.
It should, honestly.
Then it would be great. Like,
I
would think that this would have a real role to play, particularly from reserve. Like, from reserve, that would make this a 4/4/4. Like, with 1 boost and maximum 5/5/5 outside of any additional augments and stuff. Like, that would be a sweet card. As is, yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate. You're getting a 3 mana 1/1/4 or a 3 mana 2/2/5, and you're hoping to have at least 1 or 2 other characters that are meaningfully improved by the rules text. A bassist best friend is another bassist, feels like. You know what I mean? You get 2 of these both boosted, then you're doing something. But that's where we get Magical Christmas Land. I don't know. Is it better for limited? I don't even know if it is. It might just be a 2 still for me.
Yeah. I want this card to be good. I mean, maybe we're undervaluing it, but
Maybe.
Hopefully we get surprised. I don't know. This card seems weird. Yeah. So the Ysmir faction shifted one is the same as the rare, which is nice. It does, of course, have the Ysmir passive support ability, which is when you play a spell, it gets a boost. I don't know if it makes this card any better, I'm going to be honest. No. Ysmir doesn't often care about... Either. Yeah. Ysmir doesn't care about the 0 base statistic or sharing, you know, the equal highest stat or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
I think this is whatever. I think I rated the rare a 3. This is also probably a 3.
I think it's worse. Just because, like, you don't have the 0 stat thing in Ysmir.
It is like, really you don't care about the boost it, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, the if I'm boosted part, that's almost never going to matter, because if you're playing this in a deck in Ysmir, it's going to be a Faunus, because you're boosting it, and you're playing spells, which triggers its passive support ability. So if you're playing it, it's going to have all of the effects, and it's going to have its maximum amount of boosts. I think this is probably just a 3 for me still.
I was taking 2. 2 across the board on the basis. I don't like it.
All right. Moving on.
The Bliss Fan. 2 mana from hand, 1 from reserve for a 1/1/0. Character Artist. Artist is a relevant type, by the way. Keep an eye out for your artists. I think all the Bliss cards have artists in their type line. When a character in your reserve gains 1 or more boosts, I gain 1 boost.
Yep. That's what it does.
That is what it does. I don't like a 2 mana 1/1/0. It would have to gain at least 1 boost for me to be comfortable playing it at all.
Yeah, it synergizes well with the Lyra passive support ability, which is when you play a character base statistic. This has a base statistic, so you play it for 2, it immediately becomes a 2/2/1 if you have anything in your reserve with that passive support ability, which is...
But you need that. Like, that has to kind of be the situation you're in. Yeah.
For sure. From reserve, I think this card is perfectly playable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's weird. In limited, I think it is better than in constructed.
100%. I'm not sure this is playable in constructed.
Unless, it's going to slot right into that Bliss Band deck that we were just talking about, and you're going to lose every game. But at least this card will actually like be one of your better cards, I think, in that deck.
Probably.
This card is going to have some stats, which your other cards won't. So, yeah, I think it's
better than the Basist.
I think so, too. I was going to give this a 3, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm on 3, because I know it's better than Basist, and I gave Basist a 2. Yeah, let's go 3s on the common. Now, when we jump to the rare, the only thing that changes is a little bit of rules text. When a character in your reserve gains 1 or more boost, target character gains 1 boost. Is that better, different, in a meaningful way?
Not sure it's meaningfully different. I'm trying to think of synergies where putting a boost on a Lyra character does something. Can't think of one.
No.
So,
I mean, besides the basis that we just talked about at rare.
That's true. Oh, actually, yeah, a lot of the Bliss cards do care about having boosts on them. The drummer wants to be boosted to get its effect. The guitarist wants to be boosted to get its effect. Okay,
it's kind of a new design space for Lyra in this set.
Right. And we haven't seen those cards yet.
Many, yeah.
But some of the new cards that we're going to go over here in just a minute do want to be boosted. Yeah, I mean, it is better. Not sure it shakes the jello enough, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it's 4 better. I think it's still a 3.
Yeah, I think it's still a 3. Because you're not going to be happy playing this in your rare slot.
No. Then we faction shift into Bravos for the common version of this card. Bleh.
Yeah.
Now, here's the deal. With the Bravos support ability, the passive, playing Bliss Fan, again, will always trigger those because Bravos cares about a character being played.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't know if it's better than a 3, though, which is what we gave the common.
Yeah. I don't think it is. It's not worse either, though.
Like, is it worth a rare slot in Bravos to play something like this?
Probably not.
Because it only gives itself the boost. If it was target character gains a boost, it'd probably be better, but I still think this is probably just a 3.
All right, sorry, fan. You're not great.
See you later, Bliss fan. Moving on. Lyra Contortionist. I love the art on this card.
This art's great.
The card was also really cool and sealed, or in the pre-release this weekend. So 2 from hand, 2 from reserve, character artist. Again, that's a relevant stat line or character type. This is a 2/3/0. Again, this is, what Lyra's trying to do. They're trying to play 0 statistic characters and synergize there. No rules text, but it does have a passive supportability of I don't count towards your reserve limit. This is the first card that has explored this design space of not counting towards your reserve limit. I think that's super cool. It is, totally unique mechanic, and it is really easy and limited, especially to put boosts on this thing in your reserve because you don't ever have to worry about it going away.
Yep.
Unless you're getting sabotaged, of course. But we've already mentioned there's a limited amount of those in this set. This card's sweet. I don't know if it's going to see constructed play, but I loved it in the pre-release.
Yeah, I played it in my sealed pool, and I liked it a lot. I liked 2 mana 2/3/0, like 2 mana for 5 stats, and getting that edge of 3 into one of them when that's relevant for you, when you're in a relevant expedition, that's going to feel good a lot of the time. And again, once you have played this once, you have access to it until it gets sabbed or until you decide to play it again. You're not going to have reserve pressuring this. So I like it. I don't think there's a lot of scenarios where in Lyra you're going to give something that doesn't already have an ability to give itself boosts in reserve to give that thing boosts. Like, I don't think Lyra Contortionist will necessarily get a lot of boosts in reserve.
Yeah, that's fair. It does synergize well with some of the things that Lyra wants to do, like the Bliss Bassist, for example, would make it all 3/3/3s.
Yeah.
And it's only 2 mana. I think this card is good. Of all of the cards that we've seen so far in Lyra, this is probably the one most likely to see constructed play. I don't know if it puts it above like a 4 for me, though, in constructed. Okay. It's just, I don't know. The common is fine, and you probably wouldn't be mad about seeing it flipped off of a Fen resupply at noon. You're just going to be like, oh, okay, that's whatever, getting some value in my reserve. But I'll take it or leave it. Maybe that means I should give it a 5, since it's like...
That's what I'm giving it. I'm giving it a 5, because I think it's a perfectly solid playable card with almost no downsides.
Yeah, I'll give it a 5 as well. Moving on to... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to get us along to this rare.
So the rare... noticeably worse stat cost here. So 2 from hand, 3 from reserve. No additional buffs to the stat line here. But it does have rules text saying, I lose fleeting. That means this card's infinitely replayable from your reserve. You can choose to play it over and over and over again for 3 mana to get a 2/3/0. Notably, you want to play this from your reserve if you're able to give it boosts over and over again, but it doesn't have seasoned. So it will lose those boosts every time it goes back to reserve. I think this is okay. I'm trying to think of like when you'd ever want to just replay a character over and over for 3 mana in Lyra.
I mean, you love this in limited. You love this in limited for sure. Having consistent access to 3 stats in Mountain that is difficult to interact with. You're going to play this every time you open it and you're playing Lyra as a faction in your limited deck in draft or in sealed. It's the same thing with like Sun Wukong had a similar ability of removing his own fleeting. Like, that's just really good in limited formats where removal is a little bit more scarce, sabotage is a little bit more scarce, and it gives you just consistent pressure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and since it doesn't count toward your reserve limit, it is cool that it just goes right back to reserve. That's an additional benefit. It is better, I think, despite it being a higher mana cost. So I think it does edge me up to a 6.
Wow.
Again, like I think this is one of the only cards that will see constructed play so far of the ones we've gone through. And this one being infinitely replayable and not counting toward your reserve limit gives it enough of a niche that I think we'll see some play. There's already Hua Mulan, which is a card that exists that loses fleeting from reserve. And this one doesn't count toward your reserve limit. So I think this is just better than that card. Not sure.
Yeah, I also bumped it 2 points to 7. I just really value this kind of replayability and, a designer's hated repetitive play pattern tends to be really good in beating your opponent.
And the art's awesome, so
true.
I love it. And the Muna version, this one's slightly different, which is cool. It's the same hand and reserve cost of 2 from the common, but its stats have flipped. It's now 3 forest, 2 mountain, 0 water. This is cool. It synergizes well with a lot of what Muna's tries to do. There's the Rin character, which is available in the Whispers from the Maze limited environment, which cares about when you win in a forest region. So that's pretty sweet. There's also a lot of ways to put counters on your things in reserve in Muna in this limited format. The first card that comes to mind is Flore. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But at noon, when it's in your reserve, you can put counters or boosts on things in your reserve. That card's awesome. Synergizes super well with this. I think this card's great. And constructed, I don't know if it's going to see a lot of play, honestly. It is cool that you can anchor it with Arjun, and it has decent stats for 2 mana. And you can just keep anchoring it. Well, I say keep anchoring it, if you have a way to remove fleeting from it.
Right. Yes, the thing is that it loses that rare text of losing fleeting.
Definitely relevant. Yeah, I'm not sure. This might just be
go ahead.
I think this might just be a 5 for Muna, honestly.
Yeah, I do think it's down from the Lyra rare version, but I do think it's better than the Lyra common version, and that's just because I think those grass synergies matter more than the 0 stat synergies matter. Like this with, Persephone with whatever that gear is that makes you care about winning in green.
Magic beans.
There it is. The beans. How could I forget? And Rin themselves. It's just, there's a package there. And having access to something like this when you can leverage it to win an expedition, it's going to matter, and it's going to feel really good to do. So I'm getting to 6.
Muna also does a lot of resupplying, and this doesn't count toward your reserve limit. So this is
100%.
Yeah, this is sweet. Still saying it at a 5, though, I think, for constructed. But yeah, sweet card. We spent a lot of time on that one. Let's move on to the Bliss Guitarist.
Yeah, the Guitarist. We got a 2 mana from hand, 3 from reserve for a 2/2 character artist. Looking fly. We got rules text. At dusk, if I'm boosted, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character with a base statistic of 0, draw it. Otherwise, discard it. And we have the Lyra supportability of when you play another character with a base statistic of 0, I get a boost up to the max of 2. Now, I know, Bill, you had some opportunity to play with this card, and it was pretty fun for you.
This card sucks. I thought it was going to be good. I tried playing it in pre-release. I spent one of my first turns. I spent the turn playing my Bliss Guitarist, and I think it was Aoife. I spent 1 mana to scout it and give this thing a boost so that it would trigger. Yeah, it discarded the card, and I still lost the expedition because it had 1 in mountain. Yeah, it was not good. I thought it was going to be better. I actually think this card will be better in constructed than it was in the sealed format. The constructed synergy, because playing this in like Nevenka, for example, you can put a boost on this every turn pretty reliably, unless you're unlucky. And you'll be triggering this to draw a card basically every time, because if you built your deck with this card in it, a lot of your characters are going to have base statistic of 0. You're going to be drawing cards. The downside, of course, is that it has a base statistic of 0. So you're going to lose some of the expeditions you play this in. Yeah, I don't know. Not really sure how to evaluate this card. I think it's just okay, which puts it at a 5 for me. It does have card advantage on it. Like, even if you're not drawing the card, you're still at least seeing the card. It's going to discard, in which case you're seeing more of your deck to then shuffle it back.
You know that card is not going to be an out for you if that's relevant. Yeah. I think the real problem is that 1/3 of the cards in your deck, on average, are not characters at all. And so all of those, when you flip them with this, will be discarded. So like the best case scenario is literally every character in your deck has a 0 stat somewhere. You still at that point have somewhere in that neighborhood of a 2 in 3 chance of actually drawing a card. I don't think that's good enough, honestly. And it has the requirement of being boosted. So from hand, it already needs help to even do it the first time. From reserve, obviously, it can support itself, particularly if you built in this direction. I just think it's a lot of hoops to jump through for at most drawing 1 card, more likely than not. I guess the real at most is drawing 2 cards, but that's like a lot of... You've jumped through every hoop possible, and you've gotten lucky.
I don't think the hoop is that much of a requirement, because Navinka is in the set, which can put a boost on this.
That's true. Yeah, Navinka does make this easier.
Yeah, that's a boost every turn, unless you are super unlucky. And anchoring, it's not bad. You know, if you do flip an anchor on this, like maybe you have a way to put a boost on it some other avenue besides your hero. And then if you anchor it, you can potentially draw more cards. I think this pairs...
Now we're getting real Christmas land.
Yeah, we are. I think this pairs well with Navinka. I'm not sure. I gave it a 5. I mean, are you feeling lower than that?
I'm feeling 4. I'm feeling 3. I don't like this card. I don't think it's very good.
That's fair.
The stats just aren't great, and I think your odds of hitting are bad. I think in limited, it's really hard to build the deck that maximizes your chances. Even if you are able to hit those boosts consistently. Also, I don't like Navinka, personally.
Yeah, she's RNG. When I played this card in Sealed, I tried to build around it a little bit because I was playing 2 of them. So I wanted to have the opportunity that anytime I flipped a character with it, I would draw it. So I was making sacrifices to play the things with 0 base statistics, and it was a bad idea. That deck was not good.
Yeah.
Moving on to the rare version.
Yeah, how about that rare, huh?
This changes its... Sorry, I'm taking over. This changes its rules text a little bit to where it doesn't care if it's a character. It just wants it to be an artist or song. Yeah. Funnily enough, this makes it worse in limited. So...
It sure does.
This makes it a lot worse in limited. There's not that many artists or songs, and you'd have to open them in Sealed or in Draft or pick it in Draft. This is bad in limited. In Constructed, it gets better for sure. You're a little bit less restricted on your deck list. You can play characters. I don't know if there's any artists that have a base statistic of 0 or not that don't have a base statistic of 0.
I don't think so.
But it also can pick up songs. That's kind of cool. I don't know how many songs there are, but I know there are at least 2.
Yeah, a good chunk of Lyra's spells, even in the previous sets, were songs, I think. Like Twinkle Twinkle's a song, right?
Yeah, Twinkle Twinkle. There's Silent Night, right? That's
right. Yes. Yeah. I couldn't think of the name of that one. Yeah. So yeah, more relevant and constructed. Pretty Dog in limited.
Yeah, this card is bad in limited. In Constructed, I think this bumps it up 1 point to a 6 because it is bad.
Wow. Stonks.
I think if you're playing this card, you're going to build around it. It's going to draw you a card basically every time, and you're going to be happy with this in your deck.
I'm realizing I've started to just represent the limited rating more than anything else because I'm dropping this bad boy down to a 2. I don't want this card in my deck if I can help it.
Yeah, that's a Rare Bliss Guitarist. On to the Axiom faction shifted version. This one is quite different. This one still cares about being boosted, but instead of artist or song from the Lyra rare, it cares about a robot or permanent on the top of your deck. Notably, before this set, there aren't very many robot characters that exist. In Trial by Frost or Beyond the Gates, the first 2 sets of Altered, there are almost no robots. But in this set, there are several. looking back at the drones and stuff that we covered in Axiom, there's also a zillion permanents. So this is cool. It also can give itself boosts when it goes to reserve. You're resupplying a lot in Axiom. I think this card is actually solid. I don't really know what deck you're playing it in, but it's cool. And I think it will work and it will see play. In Limited, again, since it has the stipulation of robot or permanent, never playing it. It's not going to be good.
Yeah. The thing that really sucks about this one is you also cannot Keytarist and flip into your own Keytarist. Because the Axiom Keytarist is still just an artist, not a robot. How cool would it be if it was an animatronic performer? This is the Chuck E. Cheese version of this card.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, sorry, the more modern reference. I don't think this is good.
Yeah, for Limited,
Even
it's
constructed.
bad. In Constructed, I think it could see play. I just don't really know. There'd have to be a new meta deck that is constructed around this kind of like playing robots and some permanents. Which I think it could happen. Like there's enough drones and stuff now. There's, I don't know, maybe later down the line this card will be better. There's also, outside of its supportability, there's not a ton of ways to boost characters in Axiom, at least a ton of currently playable ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is probably just a 5 for me for now. And I hope that I get surprised by this card.
Despite getting burned by it, you're high on it. And I like to see that confidence. All
right, yeah, moving on. We've got the Daedalus, which I think I took that one over, but I'll also just do this one. We've got 3 from hand, 3 from reserve, 033, character engineer. So, fun fact, I forgot that Icarus's dad's name was Daedalus until last night when I was explaining the story to my fiance. I was like, oh, Daedalus I saw in this set, so that's cool that the dad and the son are here. Granted, I don't see Icarus on the art anywhere, so not really sure what's up with that.
Well, he flew away.
Yeah, I guess.
We know what happened.
I thought he'd be on here somewhere. But regardless, when you play this guy from hand, target a character in reserve, then roll a die. On a 4+, we both gain a boost. On a 1 through 3, it gains a boost. I played this in pre-release. I liked this card. This card turned out to be good.
Totally fine. Yeah. Also, the art is sick. I think the art on this whole series right here is really cool.
For sure. Yeah, the art is awesome. This card was good. I don't know if it's going to see constructed play. Probably won't unless you're like going really heavy in a dice rolling theme. You're probably going to lose every game. But this card's cool. That's all I have to say about it. It's probably like a 4.
Yeah, it's a 5 for me. I think this is a classic sort of like pawn. You're going to play this card. It's going to, be good enough. 3 for 3 and 2 relevant stats is enough with the potential of getting a boost on itself and the guarantee of getting a boost on something else. There's not much bad to say about it. I think the only criticism is that for Lyra, who cares about an engineer? That is an irrelevant type line. But what can you do?
Yep. On to the rare version.
Yeah, the rare, I think, is actually pretty interesting. You get a couple different adjustments here. Cost and stats, all the same, but you get Scout 1, which we know is the best Scout cost. And we get an adjustment to the text here. Target another character in play or in reserve. So you just get more options, all options. More options on the menu. You get the Scout 1, that's a new option. You can target something in play, that's another additional option. And really importantly, it goes from a hand ability to an arrow ability from anywhere. So you're going to get this trigger if you scout it and when you play it from reserve. I think it's a significant upgrade.
Massive. This is maybe the most different that we've seen out of a rare from the common in this set. This is probably enough to bump it up a few slots for me. Again, you're only playing this in a dice rolling deck, I think. Maybe with Scout 1, you could see it in another Lyra build, but this might be a 6, honestly, for me.
I'm going to 8.
Wow. This guy's crazy.
I like this card. I like this card. I mean, I would play this literally in any deck that could. In Limited for sure. And even in constructed, I think it's worth considering because it's just value. It's just raw value.
Yep.
I like this guy.
It's good. The Bravos one is the exact same as the
Yep.
Lyra Rare version, and that is very good. I mean, it's
Still
boosting.
great.
Bravos wants to be doing boosts. I mean, this is sweet. Yep. There's no dice rolling synergy in Bravos, but there's a lot of boost synergy. So
yeah.
I think
And the thing that's nice is that the die roll does not control whether the other thing gets a boost. It just controls whether Daedalus gets a boost.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, on any of the results, the thing that you target will always get a boost. So you're guaranteeing the boost, which matters for those Bravos interactions. So again, I think this card is great. Like a very, very good 3-drop.
Yeah, I think it's good. I don't know if it's great per se in constructed. I don't know if it'd be like a 7, for example. I think it's... Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7 just because the art's sick. So 7.
There you go.
Yep.
He got his collar popped.
Yeah,
he got that fringe on his hat now.
All right, let's move on from Daedalus. We've got Lakshmi, not sure.
It's definitely one of those.
Yeah, definitely one of those. It's 3 from hand, 3 from reserve, character deity, 2/2/2. She's also got 4 arms, question mark. When you roll 1 or more dice, I gain 1 boost. Again, goes right into the dice rolling strategy deck. You're probably losing those games, but you're probably going to have fun, I guess. The interesting thing is if you play this on turn 1 in a Navinka deck, it is guaranteed to be a 4... I can't say guaranteed. It is most of the time going to be a 4/4/4 because Navinka is going to put a boost on it, and it's going
about 2 and 3 times. Yeah.
So most of the time, it's going to be a 4/4/4. Some of the time, it's going to go to reserve, and
you're going to feel really bad.
Yeah, and then you're going to wonder why you built this dice rolling deck. So, cool card. I don't know if it's good. They're just trying to fill out the slots for a dice rolling deck. This goes in it. I think this is like a 4. Maybe I'm going to give it a 3. This is a 3.
Yeah, I don't love paying 3 mana for a 2/2/2 and then having to literally roll the dice on whether it gets any bigger. That said, I do like the upside for when you hit your 2 out of 3 and it's a 3 mana 4/4/4. That is a lot better.
For sure.
And I mean, a 3 mana 3/3 anchored is also a good outcome overall. I'm pretty happy with that.
Absolutely. It's just the risk of having to play this and it going to reserve on the first turn. It can literally lose you the game. So
yeah,
that's too much of a downside.
4. I think it's like just below fine on Unlimited.
Yep. Moving on to the rare, nothing changes with the cost or the statistics, but when you roll 1 or more dice, if the result is 6 or higher, draw a card. That is a lot more interesting. Now we're talking. That's card advantage. It also gains a passive support ability, which is different from all the other Lyra passive support abilities. This says when you roll 1 or more dice, I gain a boost. So again, slots right into the dice rolling deck. It's card advantage for the dice rolling deck. It is better than the common. I don't know how often you're going to be rolling a 6+ though.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. It at least, if you're putting this into the dice rolling deck, it has that passive support ability to give it some more boosts. So it comes out of reserve a little bigger. I mean, I think this is better than the common, but not by a whole lot. I think
I'm not sure it is. I'm not sold that it is, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of scenarios where you're going to get where you can help get to a 6+. I think the only card right now that changes your dice result is Martingale in Lyra, which allows you to add 1 to it, and so you have to roll a 5.
You need Martingale, and you need the thing that lets you roll 2 dice, the permanent.
Yeah.
I give it a 3. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think I'll give it 1 more point, up to a 4, in the hopes that there's maybe a dice rolling deck that is fun. Tier 2,
Sure.
But I don't know. On to the
And
faction
we have this faction shift. I'm excited for this for you. I want to get your read on this as the resident Lindaway player. We have three from hand, three from reserve, 3-3-3. We got one more on the stats. And now our text box says, when you sack a character, I gain a boost. How do you feel about that? No.
This card is not good.
I'm so sad. Oh no.
It's like making a maw, but for a lot more mana, and it's worse. This isn't good. It's just another copy of Maw for 3 mana that doesn't do anything about sacrificing. It's not good to sacrifice. Yeah, this card's not good.
Dang.
This is like a 2, I think.
Also, as we know, sacrifice has basically like 0 support in limited and is pretty bad actively most of the time. I think it's 2s all around. Not great.
Yeah, it at least has decent stats, so that's it.
You're right. I should not look at this text box so much. It's a 4, maybe even a 5, because 3 mana 3-3-3 I'm like never mad about.
Mm-hmm.
What am I talking about? Yeah, 3 mana 3-3-3.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Right.
But in constructed,
I was crazy. I lost my mind for a second. I'm sorry.
What did I give it, a 2?
You did.
It should probably be a 3, just because of the stats.
Yeah.
Give that thing a 3. Let's move on. Another Bliss member.
The drama. We got 4 from hand, 5 from reserve for a 4/4/0 character artist. If I'm boosted, other characters cost 1 less to play from your reserve with a minimum of 1. And then we have the Lyra support ability of when you play another character with a base statistic of 0, get a boost up to 2. So I played with this card a bunch. I played way too many to start with. I think I had 3 in one of my decks, and I definitely cut one after my second game, because the feeling of having 3 of these in your hand is so bad, it made me want to throw my deck in the river. It was terrible.
Yeah. I played with this in sealed, and I don't think I ever cast it a single time.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good enough for how much it costs.
Yeah, again,
if it was 3 mana on the face, so different.
Yeah, because again, we're talking about 4 from hand for 8 total statistic. You're aiming for 12. You're falling real short. Think of this compared to the Hatter, which is the same cost from hand and reserve, but it is a 5/5/0.
Yeah.
Way different.
Yeah.
And in order for this to have any text at all, it has to be boosted. This card, not good.
Also, it's so expensive that even if it is boosted, the text doesn't often matter. Like, sure, it makes things 1 cheaper, and so you're marginally more capable of playing something after playing Bliss Drummer, but like by that time it's turn 5 or beyond, and like you really want to be doing more impactful stuff than this at that stage of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. This thing's a solid 2, I think.
Yeah, it's a 3 for me. I still would play it in limited some amount of the time, but I'm definitely never playing 3 again if I can help it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason it gets a 2 is because it has some synergy with Lyra and having a base statistic of 0, and it has that passive support ability. I'm starting to realize maybe I'm just a Lyra hater with the base statistic of 0, because all of my ratings of these cards have been below 5. But maybe I'll be surprised. So, I guess.
Yeah, and we have our rare version where you get an awesome 1 mana discount on the from reserve cost. So now we're 4/4 on costs. And you might think there must be something else to even further sweeten this deal. This is rare, right? Nope, you actually get a nerf. If I'm boosted, other artists cost 1 less to play from your reserve, not characters. So you have a constraint on the text, and that's what you have to pay for your reserve cost reduction. Bad.
Yeah,
the card's bad.
It got worse in limited. It didn't change in constructed. You're playing. If you're playing this in your deck, you're going to be playing artists. So this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Stays at a 2. I guess it gets cheaper. So it maybe should be a 3.
Cheaper from reserve. Yeah.
Yeah, it maybe should be a 3 then.
Yeah, I just think there's like not a meaningful difference because I already think the ability doesn't matter much. So making the ability worse is like whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
Faction shift Axiom. we get the rare version with the replacement in the text. Obviously, if I'm boosted, robots cost 1 less to play from your reserve, and we have the Axiom passive ability. Again, there's just not a lot of robot cards. Most of your robots are brass bugs, and this is already still too expensive to make much leverage.
And again, if you're playing this in your deck, you're probably playing more than one. If you have this in your reserve, it doesn't reduce itself. It's not a robot. So
really missed that Five Nights at Freddy's mark, unfortunately.
It is probably the best version of these, only because it can give itself boosts and it can get bigger with the passive support ability. It's the cheapest one of all of them. It's probably the best one. Might be a 4 for me.
Wow. I'm 3 across the board on the drummer. I'm not thrilled with this card.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that we see an Axiom Bliss build. That would be very funny.
It would be. It'd make me chuckle.
All right, that's the Bliss drummer. Moving on.
Yep.
We've got Ephron, Puppet Master, which is 5 from hand, 4 from reserve, character artist. Stat line of 4/5/4. It says, when you play from hand, roll a die on a 4 or higher sabotage. On a 1 through 3, resupply. This guy, I played in some of the demo decks. I did not get a chance. Oh, I did play him once in the pre-release, actually. He was fine. I was happy to play him if I was playing Lyra. I think the stats are just fine for what you're paying for, especially from reserve. Getting a sabotage or a resupply, I'm happy with either outcome most of the time. By the time you're playing this card at 5 mana, you're going to have something to sabotage most of the time. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't sabotage something, you just flip the resupply. Also not too upset about it. You might overload your reserve, but at least you're seeing more cards and, digging a little deeper in your deck. You get choices. How are you feeling about this card?
I think this is like a notch above solid for limited. I'm not mad about a 5 mana 4/5/4 overall. I'm really not mad about it for 4. And that paying that 1 extra, that 5 mana for the from hand ability, I think is totally worth it. I think it's rare that ability is dead, where you roll a 4+ and there's nothing to sabotage. And it's just a relevant chunk of words on this thing. So I would play this again in that those high end slots. I'm using this and leaning towards it more often than not to include it in my deck. I give it a 6.
Yeah, it doesn't have synergy in the Lyra that most other Lyra characters want, which
is just value.
Yeah, like it doesn't have base statistic of 0, it doesn't have passive support abilities. It is an artist, notably, but like
it is.
With all of the other artists in this set, you're not playing it in that deck because it doesn't have a base statistic of 0. If you flip this with the Guitarist, you're discarding him. Or I guess if you're playing the rare, you pick it up. But if you're playing the common, this guy's getting discarded. Yep. I don't know. This card's weird. In Constructed, if you're playing this, you're probably playing it in the dice rolling deck, where you can kind of manipulate your choices, so at least you can choose what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still a 5 mana card. I don't know. I feel like it's just mid, so I'm going to give it a 5.
All right. Fair enough.
Moving on to the rare version. So this actually gets a discount from reserve, but it also gets a nerf to its mountain statistic. It goes from 5 in hand and 4 in reserve to 5 in hand, 3 in reserve, 4/4/4, with Scout 2 now. So it gains the Scout mechanic. We love Scout around here. We've learned that.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you do get to trigger the from hand ability, which is the same on a 4+ sabotage, 1 through 3 resupply. This is better. Straight up, this is 2 mana sabotage or resupply, and in the deck you're playing it in, you're going to get the choice most likely to do whichever one that you need for 2 mana. That's not bad. From reserve, a 3 mana 4/4/4. Happy with that.
Yep.
This is a notch above.
It's definitely a notch above. And I think, especially in limited, it's a notch above, because the play pattern here of you are often going to scout this on turn 2 to have open shot at whatever they played turn 1 or resupplying. You're happy either way. And then on turn 3, playing this in a 2-drop, 3 mana 4/4/4, you are happy with, very happy with in limited. I clocked this thing at a 7.
Yep, I was going to bump it up once to a 6 for constructed, because in the decks you're playing this in, you're going to be happy with this card. This is going to be one of the staples for your dice rolling deck, I think. Yeah, it's a good card. The faction shifted version, straight up just the rare, it is good. It's just the same rare from Lyra over in Axiom.
Yep. Still a 7.
Yeah, it doesn't actually change, the type line or anything like that. It's not a robot. It's not an engineer. It's still rolling dice, which Axiom doesn't care about. But Axiom likes to resupply, and Axiom likes to sabotage. I mean, I could see this seeing play as a top-end card in an Axiom deck. Seems fine. Probably just a 6 again.
Yeah, everyone likes value at the end of the day. All the factions, they like a good stat line. They like a good set of words and numbers, So it's a good one.
Yeah, let's move on from Ephron.
Yeah, how about the Man in the Maze? We were talking about this card. This is 7 from hand, 4 from reserve for a 0/5/5 character deity. Another deity. Has a from hand ability. Remove all boosts from characters in play and in reserve. Then, depending on the number of boosts removed this way, if you removed 1 through 4 boosts, I gain 2 boosts. If you removed 5 through 8 boosts, you play a card with hand cost 3 or less for free. And if you removed 9 or more boosts, my expedition moves forward 1 region. Now, there's a couple critical things to understand about this card. 1, this removes all boosts from characters on either side of the battlefield, in play and in reserve. Anyone. Yours, theirs, doesn't matter. And it's not a may. You have to. So if you've got guys that have been accumulating boosts in your reserve, they're getting eaten by the Man in the Maze. The other thing that's important to remember is that this is not like a series of checkboxes. You are going to meet one of these conditions and do that thing, not all of these things. So say, for example, you remove 6 boosts. You just get to play a card with hand cost 3 or less for free. You don't also get 2 boosts on Man in the Maze. I say this stuff because this stuff was misunderstood multiple times at pre-release. This card's a little complicated. All that said, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, that 9+, getting that small step giant leap, that's huge.
It is huge. I played this in limited in the pre-release, and I was very impressed with this card every time.
Nice.
Because if I resupplied with it, if it ended up in my reserve one way or another, it was a 4 mana 0/5/5. I was happy with that. And if I was playing it from hand, it would often absolutely crush my opponent, because like we've talked about, there's a lot of synergy here with putting boosts on characters in your reserve, and even in play. There's a lot of cards like the Hydra and other stuff that just have a bunch of boosts on them, right?
Yep.
And since this is in your hand, you make the decision of when it's good, right? You don't have to play it. You can mana it if your opponent's not doing that. You know what your opponent is up to. And by the time you're going to play this late in the game, it's going to be doing work. The common, just fine, in my opinion. There was one turn I got to play the Man in the Maze, remove 8 boosts from things, and immediately play another character on the other side and win both expeditions, because I completely neutered my opponent's boosts from their reserve characters and things in play. This card was great for me and limited. That said, I don't know how good this card is going to be in constructed, because I don't know how many of these boosts and passive support abilities are going to make it into a constructed meta. They're pretty slow overall, and a lot of the cards that enable that strategy I've ranked kind of low in constructed, and maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised, they'll make their way in, but I don't know if this is going to see play in constructed. In limited, I think this card was good, above average for sure.
Yeah, you definitely can't play too many of these. Again, you'd probably have 1 7-drop in your deck in limited. So a high price of entry for sure. You're going to mana this a lot of the time if it's in your opening hand. You're going to try to hope to draw this in that mid to late game where you can plan around it. And like you're saying, control for the board so that it's maximum beneficial for you. I think broadly, you're most likely to get the 1 to 4 more often than not when you play this card. And a 2/7/7 is by no means a slouch. You get to pick where you play it so that those big boy stats are relevant. I think it's like a 5. I think this is like an unusual, sort of expensive, but at the end of the day, kind of pawn feeling card. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I will call out with the 5 through 8, you don't have to play a card from your hand.
True.
You can play a card with hand cost 3 or less for free from your reserve, which is really relevant. Like, if you have something, this doesn't happen very often, but if you have something that has hand cost 3 and your reserve, but its reserve cost is like 5, you can play it from your reserve for free. That came up, and that's how I won the other side of the expedition. Looking at cards like Bliss Drummer, for example, that's more expensive from the reserve. So if that comes up, you have a 3 hand cost, but it's more expensive from the reserve. This card was a bomb in my pre-release experience. But
on a
like
related note, it's also important to bear in mind that this is not cost reduction. It's not the same thing. So this is not, if you have 8 mana and you play this and you get that second sort of notched ability, you don't get to play a 4-drop for 1. You get to play a card with hand cost 3 or less for free, explicitly. Yep. So just
from
be
hand
careful.
or reserve. Yeah, this is a cool card. There's a lot of layers to it.
Yeah. Complicated.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I give it a rating. I'm going to give it, because in Constructed, I don't think it's going to see play.
Yeah, that's
but
fair.
It's not bad. I mean, it's probably just like a 3. It's like an Eros with more interesting stuff going on. So an Eros sees no play at all. So I'm going to give it a 3.
Eros is sick and limited, though, I will say. Mm-hmm. Should inform my assessment here. Now, Rare Man in the Maze. Interesting. This is where we just break the rule that we just talked about of the common version. So costs are the same, stats are the same. Text is mostly the same. Remove all boosts from characters in play and in reserve. Then, depending on the number of boosts removed this way, this is where you do get to start doing all of them. If you remove 1 or more, you get to gain the 2 boosts. If you remove 5 or more, you get to do the 2 boosts, and you also get to play the card. 9 or more, you do all 3 things. Interesting.
That's good. I mean, in limited, it'd be even better than the common.
Yeah. I mean, this is strictly better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
strictly better in every way. In Constructed, not much has changed. I still don't think this is going to see much play. It would be better if it fit into the meta, so maybe it's a 4 in that case.
Yeah, I'm going to pop this guy up to 7. Just because that feeling of getting the 2 boosts and playing a card, like if you can make that work, that's awesome. If you somehow get to 9, I mean, I don't know how you're losing that game at that point, but yeah, I mean, this is just kind of a bomb. It should be higher, honestly. I'm making it 8. It's just a bomb.
Heck yeah.
Then we faction shift into Ysmir. Again, a little change to the text box. Now, we don't get the sweet rare version from Lyra. It's still the common ranges. But on our 9+, it now says the expedition facing me moves backwards 1 region. How is this different?
It's not really that different. By the time you're playing this in the game, your opponent will have advanced. So I was going to say there's a downside in that if you play this in a space where your opponent hasn't moved that expedition, that's the downside. But you're probably going to not do that by the time in the game that this is happening.
This is like marginally worse than the common?
It almost seems that way. Yeah, this seems marginally worse. I can't think of a reason why it would matter to move back 1 region. There's the combo that you can do in Bravos right now with the Eat Me energy bars. So like when you play this with Eat Me energy bars, it would affect both expeditions to move backward 1 region. But Ysmir doesn't have access to that. So that would only come up in limited, or like if you were doing some kind of chaos draft or something. But
yeah,
I don't know. This is a weird one. I don't think you're ever playing this in Ysmir. This is like a 2, I think, maybe, for Constructed.
Yeah. And for limited, I think it's still like a 5. Because I think the circumstance for your opponent expedition is somehow not left the start. You're not too worried if you're landing a 7
Yeah.
that's this big and does this much stuff. So, pretty solid. Let's move on.
All right. That's all the characters for... Wait, I thought we were in Ysmir. That's all the characters for Lyra. So we're moving on to spells.
You wish we were in Ysmir, buddy. We're not even halfway done.
Okay, so Merry Reunion. This is 2 from hand, 2 from reserve, spell conjuration. Notably not a song. We've seen that songs are relevant. This is not one of those. This just says resupply. If you put a character in reserve this way, you may immediately play it for 2 less. I played this in the pre-release. I was satisfied with this card when I played it. Basically every time. It was sort of like an After You. It was just 2 mana, immediately resupply. Most of the time you're flipping a character. That's usually most of your deck. And you can play it right away for less mana. This card was just fine for me in Constructed. I could see this being played, or in Limited I should say. I could see this being played in Constructed. If you're building your deck around this card, you're just playing a lot of characters that are relatively cheap. Maybe some kind of Lyra low to the ground like aggro build or something. I don't know. Did you play with this card?
I didn't play with it. I didn't play against it. It kind of, we talked about this card a little bit. I feel like this is air. Like this just doesn't do a lot. This is a slot in your deck that you're using to kind of just sort of, I don't know. Like you're saying, after you, 2/3 of the time it's a character and you hopefully have the mana to pay for it with the discount. Some of the time you won't. And then, you know, you've gotten that little marginal bit of card advantage, but you spent 2 mana to do it.
Notably, this doesn't have fleeting. So, like, you can play it again. It is card advantage. So,
you almost really want to play it twice in the same turn so that this isn't eating up one of your reserve slots. Like, by playing this card from hand, you are effectively putting 2 things in reserve if you can't immediately play it if it's a character. I don't love this card. It's a kind of just slinging cards that, you know, can be fun, but it doesn't feel good enough to me. It doesn't feel strong enough.
Yeah, and I can see that argument for Limited. I'm hopeful that this will see play in Constructed as like a, you know, sort of a spell slinging card. Or I guess it won't be a spell slinger deck because you want it to flip characters, but
right.
This is card advantage at the end of the day. Like, it's 2 mana resupply, and even if you don't hit a character, like you're still digging through your deck, and you can just do it again. I think this is like a 4 maybe for Constructed.
Yeah, I could see 4 being reasonable. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I would play it, but like it would be a card I'd be looking to cut for something that matters more. What about the rare?
So the rare is just mostly the same. It's just now... Oh, sorry. It's actually totally different. It's 2 from hand, 1 from reserve.
I was so confused. I was like, there's 3 differences.
Yeah, this is a totally different card. It's 2 from hand, 1 from reserve. This one has cooldown, so notably still not fleeting. It's going to go to your reserve. Just going to be exhausted when you play it. Still resupplies. If you put a character in your reserve this way, you may then put it in your hand. Okay. So there's a lot to unpack here. It's cheaper from reserve, meaning it's better to resupply this card. Playing it in a Finn, for example, pretty good. Yep. It has cooldown, so you can't immediately play it right away. That means it's worse later in the game.
Yep.
However, it may look like a downside that when you flip a character, you can put it in your hand rather than play it immediately for 2 less. But I don't actually know if that's a downside, because you actually get 2 plays from that character now than just the 1. Because immediately when you play it from your reserve for 2 less, it gains fleeting. You're not getting that character back. But when you put this character in your hand, it actually does more of a pseudo after you. You get to see what your opponent does before you now play this character that's going to have a second chance at life. You know, it's going to go to your reserve and you're going to get to play it again. I think this is just better than the common. Like I said, a lot to unpack. There's a lot going on with that card. I think it's a 5. In the decks that you're playing this in and Constructed, this is going to be one of your better cards, I think.
One of your better cards and you're rating it 5.
Yeah, because I still don't think it's amazing. Maybe it's a 6. You've convinced me. I'll go 6, just because it's card advantage and it's
Just
cheap.
trying to understand your language. That's all.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe I need one of those charts that I can like reference, so I can know where I've like put everything in front of me. But yeah, I'll give it a 6, I think.
Okay. I'm willing to go up to 5, mostly because I like that from reserve cost, and I like how it interacts with Fen, particularly limited. And I do think generally shoving something in your hand is better. But yeah, I'd like to play with this card. I think is really where I'm landing. I want to try it, get a sense for it. So we'll see.
The faction shifted version is exactly the same as the rare Lyra version, and that's good in Bravos. I tell you, I mean they are playing a lot of characters. This is good. I don't know if it is a 7, but it certainly could be. Like, Bravos needs some card advantage. This one is a good one.
I think there's also builds of Bravos for constructed that are more likely to be able to benefit from this. Putting something in your hand, like a Bravos deck that has more scout abilities, you want that thing to go back in your hand and not just to play it at a discount.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
So with this new set, I think it being the rare version instead of the common version makes sense. Yeah, if a scout deck emerges for Bravos, this will be a part of it. I have to imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is probably a 7 then, I think.
Yeah, I like bumping this up to a 6 for myself, because I think what I was saying holds true for limited as well.
Heck yeah, that's
Let's
Mirror
move on.
Union.
Yeah. Next up, we have Sap Duende. 2 from hand, 2 from reserve for a spell song. Remember that song. We care about songs. This one is fleeting. Target 2 boosted characters in play or in reserve and exchange their boosts. Draw a card. Love to have that 3-word sentence of draw a card on a spell like this. And like we've mentioned, we actually referred to this card earlier. This can straight up kill a dude.
Yeah, I think this card's great. I don't love the common version, but it's definitely workable. Like we've already seen a lot of support for boosting just from passive support abilities. Like there's going to be boosted characters to target most of the time, especially in limited. In constructed, probably not. This is almost never going to see play. There's not that many boosts getting slung around. There's like a Faunus, which is one of the meta decks. There's some Muna stuff where boosts go around with Tasia. I can't think of any Lyra deck that is going to be boosting outside of maybe some of this Bliss Navenka stuff going on in constructed.
True.
But in limited, this card was great.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the really sick thing here is like, you have that Nemean Hydra or whatever. Yeah, or Lernaean. Never remember that word. It's just all boosts. You swap it for 1 boost from one of your guys, you're thrilled. It's a huge swing, and you draw a card. Like, this replaces itself.
Yeah, this won me a game in pre-release because my opponent was playing, those all-in characters like the Hydra, like Silas, which we'll cover, later on. And another cool thing about this card is if you're losing a side, you can just swap boosts off of that side of one of your characters to another side where you are now winning.
Exactly. Yeah.
This card's pretty versatile, and I was pleasantly surprised with this card. The common, like I said, is worse than the rare.
Sure.
And I don't think it's going to see constructed play. So personally, I would rate this card pretty low for constructed. And there's no like seasoned effects in Lyra, at least not yet. So I'm going to give this like a 2 for constructed, the common version anyway.
Cool. I'm giving it a 6. So like the thing with this card in limited is that there is no number of these where you would not want to play another one. Mm-hmm. Like if all 10 spells in your deck, assuming you're normally going for that 2/3 characters, 1/3 spell split, or 1/3 non-character, you would play 10 Sap Duendes in this limited format. Like there's just way too many moments where you'd be able to swap something meaningfully and make it work for you, even though you have to target boosted characters. Um, the rare version is even crazier. That's why this one's only getting a 6, because the rare version's nuts. Same cost, still fleeting, but it does adjust the language here to target 2 characters in play or in reserve and exchange their boosts. They no longer have to be boosted, so you can just straight up steal their boosts, plug them into your guys. Even if you don't have guys, you've got guys in reserve, plug them into your reserve, no big deal. And you still draw a card. This card is incredible.
It is incredible. Yeah, notably, one of the things that you target doesn't have to have boosts on it. So like if your opponent has got 5 or 6 boosts on their thing, you can just steal them. They're yours now.
Yeah, you just yoink them. Stick them on your 1/1/1.
And you draw a card. Like this card is crazy. In limited, absolute bomb. If I play every single one of these rares that I open. In constructed, significantly better because you don't have to target 2 boosted characters to get the effect here. I still don't know if it goes above like a 4 because Lyra is not really doing a whole lot with boosts besides the bliss stuff like we were just talking about.
Yeah.
I think this is just like a 4.
I'm slapping this thing with a 9, baby. This is my highest rating yet.
Yeah,
this
this
might be
great.
one of, if not the best card in the set for limited. It's nuts.
Yeah, very, very good. You'll be, if you play this in limited at the rare slot or you open one of the rares, you will be very impressed when you resolve this card.
Yeah, take it highly. Play with it if it's in your sealed pool. And the same is true of the faction shift into Muna because it is the rare version. Again, no change.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's just as good in Muna as it is in Lyra, if not better.
I ended up warping my pre-release a lot of the time to play Lyra and Muna because I had these cards. Like they warped it enough to where I was pointed in that direction. So.
And I didn't see a single one in my pools, but I saw other people play them, and they were real good. So.
Yeah, it's a great card.
How do you feel about your rating for it in Muna?
Oh, in Muna, it actually is better because Muna cares about boosts. There's a lot more boost synergy going on. That probably bumps it up to like a 6, honestly.
Wow. Okay.
Because it says draw a card on it. You know, there's a lot of synergy
yeah.
with boosts. So, yeah, this is a good card.
You know, your worst case scenario of there's nothing in play. I guess your worst case is if there's not 2 characters to target. Your next worst case is that there's 2 characters to target, but they don't have boosts. It's still 2 mana draw card. Like, you don't want to be doing that, but it's not the worst situation to be in.
Yeah, somebody correct us if we're wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard someone say that you don't actually have to have 2 characters in play to do this. You can just play it for 2 to draw a card. So
I'm so used to Magic requirements, so I'm still learning the altered stuff. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure
please. Either. Help us out. Yeah.
All right.
Next
up, we've got Encore, 2 from hand, 3 from reserve, spell song. Again, another song. Keep your eye out. This one says, target fleeting character gains anchored. This is pretty cool. There's already a card that does something similar to this called Meditation Training. It just straight up says a character with like hand cost 3 or less gains anchored. This is a little bit less conditional in that it's just any fleeting character. That's just going to happen. That's going to happen often. I played this in the pre-release. I was okay. Like I don't think I actually resolved the common a single time, but the rare I did. This is just fine. I actually think this could see some play in constructed. Just because Lyra doesn't really have access to anchoring outside of, like activating Navinka and rolling a 6. Yeah, I think this could be good. Clearly they were going for the bliss synergy and that like you're playing your fleeting bliss characters and then trying to give them anchored so they keep their effects around, right? You're trying to get the bliss you're trying to get the bliss guitarist effect and the drummer's effect and stuff. That's what they were going for. You're going to play this in your bliss band deck and lose every game, but you're going to, have an encore, so.
And then when you play it in your bliss band deck, you're going to have a really good time. I think this card's interesting. I like giving stuff anchored. I like that this doesn't have fleeting. I like that it doesn't have cooldown. Like, you can just rock with this bad boy.
Yeah, I mean, Bliss is not Bliss. Anchored is one of the best effects you can give a character. So I'm just
Yeah.
now noticing like the art on this card. It's making me real sus of AI. Like, look at this face. It's super warped. Look at this face. Look at this Bliss sign up here.
It
I don't
looks
know.
worse on the common. In the rare, it looks more clear.
Yeah. I mean, the faces are still super terrifying. Like, look at these faces, man. These are so scary. That is not what people look like.
Well, enjoy your nightmares tonight, buddy.
Yeah. Anyway, the common is okay. It could see some play. I'm gonna give it a 3.
I'm gonna give this one a 4. I think it could be better than what I'm saying, to be honest. Especially in limited.
Yeah, an important difference is it doesn't have fleeting at common, so
yeah,
you can replay it. That's cool. Moving on to the rare, we've got 2 from hand, 2 from reserve. This one has fleeting, but target fleeting or boosted character gains anchored. Much more flexible, especially in limited, because like we've said many times at this point, there's a lot of boosts going around. So you can just anchor stuff. This card's good. I played this, I resolved this in pre-release, and it was good when I played it.
yeah.
I don't know if it's going to see play in constructed, but if it does, it's better than the common because it's cheaper from reserve and you have more flexibility in targeting boosted characters. So I'm going to give this a 4, I think.
I wish it didn't have fleeting. But like, you definitely do want to target your boosted characters more often than you want to target your fleeting characters overall. Because the boosted characters are more likely to have been meaningfully improved such that you want to retain them. Whereas fleeting just means, well, you're going to lose it. And like, you don't want to lose it, sure. But just because it's fleeting doesn't mean it's like the one character of the ones that you control that you want to keep. In this set, it is more likely that the fleeting character is the one you want to keep because it is boosted, because of the passive abilities in the set. I think it edges up a little bit for limited purposes, just because boosted is more of the target demographic for anchoring. I rated it 5. My bad.
Onto the faction shifted version into Bravos. It is the exact same as the Lyra rare, but in Bravos, this card's gas. Bravos does not have access to anchored, basically at all. And guess what Bravos be doing? They be putting fleeting and boosted markers on their characters. So this card's great. I could definitely see this being played and constructed. This is like a 7, I think.
Ooh. Yeah, I went for a 6 on it just because, again, that Bravos context. But yeah, I could totally see this being a role player and constructed in the future.
Yeah, I think this card is great. And that's Encore. Let's go to the next one.
All right, next up, X marks the spot. This is 3 from hand, 3 from reserve for a spell Disruption with fleeting. Roll a die. Send target character to the Xth position of its owner's deck, where X is the result. So a nice little tuck spell. How good is tucking in Altered?
I had someone play this against me in the pre-release. Not good. It's too expensive, I think, for what you're doing. It just comes back into their hand. It is totally random as to, like, are they going to get it next turn because you're rolling a die? Are they going to get it 3 turns from now? So I don't think this card is good. In a dice rolling deck, this is going to be your removal, and you're going to lose, but you're going to have fun. So I don't know.
Bill does not believe in this dice rolling deck.
Did you play with this card or see anyone?
No, I didn't play with it. I didn't see anyone play with it.
Someone played it against me. Yeah, I had someone play it against me on the first turn of the game. I played my 3 mana
on the first
character.
Turn?
Yep, I played my 3 mana character. They played this. And I was like, okay, we have now passed the turn.
Yeah, I mean, effectively nothing has happened.
They are down a card. This has
they're
fleeting.
down a card.
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah.
I won that game. This card's not good. I'm going to give this a solid 2.
I think 2 is probably fair. I mean, man, it's hard for me to think about it because in Magic, tucking is quite good.
Mm-hmm.
But
There's
it's
no
because you're
shuffling in
drawing
this
one
deck.
card a turn.
Or in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tucking in limited in Magic is good regardless of whether they're shuffling or not, because you deny them a draw. So yes, you spent a card, but they will also have to spend a card drawing that card again.
Yeah, it's different in Altered because
hopefully,
you're drawing 2 a turn.
right. I think that really disrupts the value of tuck. That said, if they're doing some big boost build-up on something, this can reset their strategy to some extent. I'm a little higher on it. I think it's a 3. I think it's still, I'd rather have better removal overall. Now, when we look at the rare version, no change in cost, still fleeting, but we have some change here. Roll a die, send target character to the X position of its owner's deck, where X is the result. If X is higher than the hand cost of the target, ready 1 mana orb. What?
Yeah, this
Why
doesn't
do I
really change
care?
it at all. This
No.
this incentivizes you to target things with low hand cost. That's not what you want to do with your 3 mana removal
No.
spell. So this doesn't make it any better. It's
No.
the same 2 for me.
Yeah, there's not really a difference here. And then our faction shift is into Muna with the same rare text. Does Muna have better removal options for constructed? I assume it does.
Yeah, I mean, Muna doesn't have a ton of good removal options. Like, their best stuff is Mana Reaping and, like, Mana Eruption and stuff, but... Yeah, I don't know.
Probably
There's
still
no
not
synergy
playing
with
it,
rolling a
right?
die. Yeah, you're not playing this in Constructed. It's a 2.
2 from Bill and 3 from me on each of these. Not
Yeah,
a great
card's not
card.
good. Moving
Yeah.
on from X marks the spot. We've got the stage, which is 2 from hand, 2 from reserve. Landmark permanent construction. When you play a character with a base statistic of 0, I gain a performance counter. You can exhaust it and spend 3 of the performance counters. The next character with a base statistic of 0 that you play this turn loses fleeting. Not good.
No.
There's not a lot of synergy around like losing fleeting. You know, the card's going to go back to your reserve. You're going to overload your reserve. In Lyra, especially in limited. There is a lot of synergy around, you know, base statistic of 0. This card's relatively cheap to play. I don't think this is ever worth it. Even when I opened this in limited, I'd never wanted to try it. If I'm playing this in constructed, I'm playing the Bliss deck, and this is just on theme that it's the stage, and I'm going to have fun with my Timmy deck, and I'm not going to win.
Yeah, it just feels like way too much dirtle and not enough value.
Yeah. If this said something like spin 3 performance counters, draw a card, I'd be in. This would be good.
Yeah, that'd be totally different. I'm out. I'm a 1. I don't want this card. It's just bad.
I think it's a 1 for me as well.
Rare any better?
All right, so the costs are the same. Quite a bit different in the rules text here. It says, when you play a song or artist, I gain 1 performance counter. Okay, so rather than playing a character with a base statistic of 0, this makes it worse and limited. Okay, and then you can exhaust it to spend 3 of the counters. The next song or artist you play this turn loses fleeting. That is better in constructed because there are several songs we've already seen that have fleeting, and getting more tries at that is pretty good. I think that's going to be somewhat powerful. So. This is going to be fighting for that rare slot in your band deck, and
that's the thing that I think is going to be hard to negotiate for constructed. Is this worth a rare? Yeah.
It gives you more plays of your powerful spells, which, you know, the spells we've seen are some of the best cards in the deck. So probably, I don't know if it makes it that much better. Maybe like a 3. It's going to be one of the better decks, or one of the better cards in your Bliss Band deck.
I'm still a 1 on it. I don't want to play this card. I think it's just bad. Just bad. No, thank you.
All right, but is the faction shifted version in Ysmir any better? We've got 2 from hand, 2 from reserve, so all the same all around. It says when you play a spell, I gain a performance counter. We are talking, baby.
Yeah.
It says exhaust me, spin 3 of my performance counters. The next spell you play this turn loses fleeting. This card is good.
Yeah, this card is gas.
This card is very, very good. There's a lot of fleeting spells in Ysmir especially that you want to replay. So
yeah.
I think this card will see play in Constructed. This is likely a 6 from me. That's how I'm feeling.
Six is exactly what I was thinking. Like, in Limited, it's going to be a lot harder to make this good. But if you do happen to grab an Aphanas and you can like have 9 or 10 spells to go with this bad boy, you are going to be pretty happy with your outcomes, I think. Especially if those spells are good and relevant, affect the board in some way. Yeah, you're gonna like getting that free replay off of one of your spells for sure.
Yeah, the only downside to this card is that you're playing it in a Spells Matter deck, and it's not a spell. So
yes, that is the big downside for sure.
That's a bit of a bummer because you also have to play characters in your deck, and this
can also be augmented. I think it's worth bearing that in mind. That's more likely to come up in Limited, but yeah, you're just more likely to be able to trigger this in the first place, and then spending your counters is an effect you actually want more often than not in Ysmir. So I just think the total package here is much better suited for Ysmir.
Absolutely. Stage is good in Ysmir. Moving on.
Caveat. Next up, our final Lyra card. It is the Wayfarer. 3 from hand, 3 from reserve for a landmark permanent construction. If you would roll 1 or more die, also reveal the top card of your deck. When you reveal a card this way, if its hand cost is equal to the die's result, draw it. Hey,
yeah, this was in the demo decks when Whispers from the Maze was, on Board Game Arena, and they were trying to push for people to go try it out. I played with the Lyra deck, which was led by Navinka and all about rolling dice. This was one of the more interesting cards I was excited to see in my opening hand. It never triggered. So you play this on your first turn, and you lose an expedition, and then it never does anything. So
yeah,
card is not good.
The problem is, card costs range above the numbers what are on a die. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. So you have a less than 1 in 6 chance of hitting on this card. Obviously, you can modify that with certain other permanents and stuff like that, but this is not worth the time. It's bad.
Again, you're going to play this in your dice rolling deck because you're struggling to find cards to fill those slots. You're going to have fun, and maybe you'll flip one card, but you're going to lose. So that's the Wayfarer.
I'm never playing this card.
This is a 1, I think, from me.
Yeah, solid 1. No thanks.
It'll be fun. Now, don't get me wrong.
Sure. Someone will have fun. It won't be me. The Wayfarer, at rare, no change to cost, but some change to texture. Same deal with revealing the top card of your deck when you roll a die. When you reveal a card, if the hand cost is equal to the die's result, you may exhaust the Wayfarer to play it for free. Don't activate any from hand abilities.
Yeah, now we're talking. This is cool. It's mimicking some of the Auroch stuff going on in Lyra already. Granted, Auroch doesn't want to roll dice, so there's a little bit of a conflict of interest there.
Yeah.
This is better. Still not good.
Yeah, it's still bad. I mean, it has the same problems.
Yeah,
it just has a better payout when you do manage to hit.
Yeah, it might bump it up to a 2 for me, honestly, just because it's that wow factor of, I hit and I get to play it. That's sick. So I think I'll give it a 2.
I'm not playing this card. It's bad. I'm not playing this card.
For content, I'll probably make a dice rolling deck, and this will be in there.
Sure.
And you guys will see me pog off. So we'll see.
Finally, our faction shift into Ortis for the Wayfarer. Slight change here. When you play a bureaucrat, roll a die and reveal the top card of your deck. When you reveal a card this way, if its hand cost is equal to the die's result, draw it. So same as the common for the effect, but our condition is now when you play a bureaucrat. So Waru the Wayfarer deck with no dice rolling controls. I think
this is the worst version of the card. There's no synergy for rolling dice at all in Ortis.
No. Yeah.
This just is not. This isn't it, honestly. Like, the bureaucrat synergy that you have, it doesn't really care about this permanent in any way. I just don't know who this card was for. It's like,
no.
It's so weird. I think this card would be way better if it said something like, when you play a bureaucrat, reveal the top card, and if the mana costs match, draw it. Like, that would be very good. But that's not what it says. This card's not good. This is like another one, I think, for me. You're never playing this, I don't think.
No, this is one of the worst cards, if not the worst card in the set. I'm never playing this. I will be happy if my opponent does.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. That's our Lyra chunk here.
Yep. And so now we've done Axiom, Bravos, Lyra, and
it's 12:40 in the morning.
Yeah, and it's late. We've been doing this for a while. Yeah, so thanks for watching. We just did those 3 factions. We will come back maybe in another video to talk about our top 5 and bottom 5 of all of the factions, and maybe even get more granular depending on, you know, how long that video might be. Because if we're only doing 10 cards, that video might be kind of short. So we'll come back to it at some point. I'm going to stop this video here because it's already extremely long, and then we're going to do the next 3 factions in the next one. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for sticking around. I will see you in the next one.